Hey Heath, how are you? It's good to see you.
Hugo, it is always a pleasure to see you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited that you're with me and Destino today. I wanted to invite you to celebrate the work that you've done and also to talk a little bit about what it's like for you to be on set. But before we do that, can I hit you with some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it, brother. I'm always ready.
I want to know, what TV or film character did you identify with when you were younger?
Gosh, when I was younger, I think the easy answer to that would be Luke Skywalker.
And
Return
why?
of the Jedi. Yeah, Return of the Jedi was the first film I ever saw in a theater. It was at a drive-in,
Mhm.
and I remember seeing this young guy who just more than any other story I'd ever heard had everything against him. And so much of that movie is about belief in yourself and understanding and being at peace with who you are and being true to your convictions. And I really appreciated that. And I really thought that was cool. There's another character though that I recently realized meant a lot to me and why, and I'll go through that pretty quick.
Yeah.
You and I both have a huge love of comics, and when I was a kid, Wolverine was sort of coming into the mainstream. And I was sort of a sickly kid. I was kind of scrawny. I struggled to play sports, even though I loved them. But this beefy, powerful guy came along who was just pure strength and power, and I just really identified with him for reasons I didn't quite get until I became older. And then I realized that in so many of the early Wolverine stories, he had these wires on his head, and he was in the hospital all the time, and he was getting worked on. Because I was sick, I was always in the hospital. And I saw this character who was able to take all of that and turn it into strength and turn it into power. And I think that was sort of a fantasy for me as a kid, that I wanted to be able to take all that stuff and all that fear of being in a hospital and having doctors around you all the time and turn it into something powerful. And so yeah, I would definitely say Wolverine, oddly enough, was a character that I sort of gravitated toward.
Yeah, that's a great note that you said, especially because of the way that I imagine all these storytellers don't want just to, they want the story to be universal and to have an impact like that. And like you said, when we're younger and we feel this way, we don't realize it, but they really do
Mhm.
have a profound impact.
Yeah, I think there were characters that I was more like in personality. I wasn't like an angry guy. I was definitely not a loner. I'm a total extrovert, but there was just something about watching that character jump up off the gurney with all these wires attached to him and then go and do what he thought was right and be the person that he wanted to be, that I said, yeah. I think subconsciously I said, yeah, that's me. That's what I want to turn my health issues into. And in a lot of ways, the things that I've fought for and succeeded to heal myself and to become a stronger person, I might attribute to being 10 years old and seeing that happen and just go, yeah, that's for me.
That's awesome. Can you tell me a TV show or film that you can watch over and over, the type that you recommend to your friends?
Tombstone is the first answer that comes right to mind. It's one of those rare films that I'll actually call like a perfect movie. You can't go wrong with it. There's a film that I saw in film school called Like Water for Chocolate. If you haven't seen that, I cannot recommend it enough. It's just beautiful, and it was my first interaction with magic realism, and it just hit me hard. And I'll give you a third one, and it's any film, any genre I can go with here.
Yeah, yeah, shoot.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro is such a an influence on me, and oddly enough, Blade 2 was a huge
That's
film for
great.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they found so much pathos and drama in this, movie, a sequel movie about a vampire killing other vampires, and I always admired that they expanded the vampire mythos of all things, which is such a like it's something that's been done a bazillion times, but Guillermo found like a fresh way to do it. And yeah, I'd recommend that film to anybody for sure.
Well, lastly, we're gonna manifest a little bit here, and if I were able to get you unlimited budget, what type of project would you personally want to do?
That's a heavy question, man.
I know that's why I wanted to give it to you.
It, and it's funny because that, people always say, do you want to be famous? What do you want to do as an actor and a writer? And my answer has always been, I want to make enough money and have enough clout that I can tell any story that I want to tell. And that means that I make it a day list, great. If it means that I just make enough to pay all my bills, but I've still got enough money to make whatever I want, I'm fine with that. I think what I would love to do is make a sci-fi or maybe even a fantasy film that is super relevant, the way that Andor, specifically Andor season two, has been so relevant. Because I think fantasy and sci-fi in particular have a way of speaking to the human story in ways that other genres sometimes kind of fail to, which is weird because you put a laser blaster and a magic staff in someone's hand and somehow they end up seeming more human than if they were just, playing a guy, working in a coffee place or something. And I think what I would like to do is something like that, where I'm able to tap into the zeitgeist a little bit through a sci-fi or fantasy lens. I think that would be pretty spectacular. And I've got a million scripts that I've written no way. So if anybody's looking to collab, let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was my intention. I love to see my friends be inspired and also be able to tell the stories that they want to tell. And yeah, with that, I'd love to know your name and what you do.
Sure. My name is Heath Harper, and I'm an actor and a writer.
And I've been watching your work since we met, and but the one that I do want to specify on is the work that you did on this commercial with Rubrik. And
Mhm.
what was it like for you on day one?
Day one was pretty unbelievable. So when you're watching the commercial, I'm interacting with this character that is both a puppet and a product of CGI. And I've done puppets and I've done CGI, but not both of them together. So, the first day I walked in and they were like, well, here's your costume and here's your mic and everything else. But more importantly, here's your son. And it's this big white fluffy cloud that was painstakingly crafted by Don Bees, who, if you are a hardcore Star Wars aficionado, you know that at one point he was in the Boba Fett costume. He has been working for Lucasfilm as a designer. He did a lot of the design on a couple of Pirates of the Caribbean films. And working with him and seeing how I can perform with this guy who's a legend, and B, and he's expressing himself through this puppet that's only got five or six pieces of movement. It's got little hands, it's got eyebrows, it's got blinking eyes, and a mouth that we can turn into a frown or a smile. That's it. But watching him communicate so well with this giant ball of fluff was it was like acting class, when you've only got that much expression, but you're able to communicate slight annoyance or I don't feel very good. I'm okay, but I don't feel great. And being able to do those tiny little emotions with just five or six movements was mind blowing. And that was what I remember about day one of that Rubrik commercial. It was really incredible.
What are the departments that you collaborate the most just to make sure that you're there to deliver exactly what your job is?
Sure. I come from a classical training. I have a degree in theater from the University of Houston, and my instructors there were Sir Peter Hall, Edward Albee, Jim Johnson, Dr. Sidney Berger. These people who are very classically trained, and with that comes a lot of vocal training. So I always make friends with audio right off the bat because I really want to be clean and clear, and I want to be able to play with my voice and do cool things. I'm a very whispery guy on camera, and I want to make sure that I'm able to, be heard and everything else. And it's, people who make films tell you if you don't have sound, you don't got nothing. And you can spend huge amounts of money on all kinds of stuff, but if your sound isn't there, you got nothing. So I always try to make friends with sound and camera. You got to know camera. You got to know that department. I try to learn everybody's name, which can be difficult depending on the size of the crew. But if you learn how they like to work and how they like to communicate, your job as a film actor is so much easier. Um, there's no one way to do it. Some DPs like to, pretty much shoot the whole project wide and then punch in post. Some DPs want to come in and they want to get the sclera around your eyes and they want that light to hit just the right way. So if you can communicate with them, once again, your job is, halfway done for you. Um, Early on, I'm talking to the writers and I'm talking to the director to find out what kind of feel they want. But as far as
Hmm.
day one, boots on the ground, I want to talk to sound and I want to talk to camera.
Great. And for you in this whole experience, what are some of the scenes that really turned out better than you thought or that really stood out to you?
Let me think. I would say what was really amazing is the scene where he's feeding his son soup because he's sick. It was the whole project was really high tech, and we had lots of moving parts. We had a college scene with 50, 60 extras or background actors, and we had so much going on. But then there's a little scene with me and this bowl of soup and this puppet. And I found that it was super quiet, and we really treated it like it was a real moment between a dad and his son. And just sitting down and telling him, look, we're going to fix you up. It's going to be okay. It really spoke to me. Once again, I was a sickly kid, and I had dozens of moments, hundreds of moments with my parents. It was like their ability to go, Heath, it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. You feel terrible. It's going to be okay. Those were really seminal moments for me. And silly as it is that, it's this puppet in a commercial, I was able to kind of connect with that and feel that. And I think the way that they lit it, especially, really spoke to what it's like to be up with a kid at 2 in the morning, trying to let them know you're going to be okay and I'm here for you.
And most of your scenes are with this puppet. What was your approach to really give that grounded performance and to make people really believe that this was your son?
Well, a big part of early acting training is learning how to give yourself over to imaginary circumstances, right? I mean, you just have to accept that you're not an astronaut, but you're on Mars today. You just are. And if you can convince yourself, okay, this is Mars. When I step in here, I'm going through a portal and now I'm on Mars. Same kind of thing. I just had to say, look, this is a real person from action to cut. It's a very delicate person. It's a kid that it needs me in order to survive and to learn about the world. And so I just convinced myself, look, if I don't hug this kid in a way that makes him feel better, he's going to feel terrible and it's going to affect him for the rest of his life. If I don't give this kid the advice that he needs about, at one point he says, what do we do if a stranger asks for our data? Well, that's obviously like someone trying to steal do identity theft. But for me, I'm thinking like, no, this is me talking to a kid saying, you got to protect yourself from strangers. This is important. So in my head, I'm thinking this is real life lessons I'm giving to a kid. And because I was able to do that, I think the commercial works. I think it feels like it's a real thing. And the metaphor is, pretty thin, but I think that it plays because it feels like real interactions between two actual people.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I had a grin the whole time watching it.
Good.
But as a viewer, we don't hear these type of stories. But was there any challenges during filming, and then how did you overcome them?
Let me think. Something they don't really prepare you for in acting school is logistic stuff. And this was a great production company. Man, they really brought in the best people, but they had a lot of communication issues with some of the logistical stuff like hotels and some of the locations and stuff like that. And so there was a lot of, waiting around. A lot of filmmaking is waiting around. And when you're tired and you want to just go, oh my gosh, this is insane. You kind of just have to keep your head cool. Uh, Gary Marshall, rest in peace, famous director. He directed me in a scene for a movie called Valentine's Day, and he just walked by me and said, "You okay? You good?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he says, "Are you cool?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he says, "You got to keep your head cool in this business, no matter what." And he walked away, and it was some of the best advice I ever got. And I remember that, when things got frustrated, when the weather wasn't, 100% for us, the wind was blowing and messing up audio or whatever, we still got a job to do, and you got to keep your head cool. So we got tested a few times with stuff like that, and we always came through because everybody stayed relaxed and did their job.
Yeah, that's all great to hear. And it's things like you said that we don't think about, that every job is very crucial, even from like whoever's job it is to take care of locations to the PAs to the grips and lighting. So yeah, like you say, there's a lot of small jobs that we really don't really give the spotlight to, but everybody is very pivotal. We did meet about 15 years ago, I think, on the set of
Gosh,
Mike and
yeah.
Molly. When I met you, you were a stand-in, and to me, as a newcomer, I totally didn't know that that was even a job. Would we be
Hmm.
able to tap into that and how you landed this gig and what the responsibilities are?
Sure. Let's see. I came out to Los Angeles in 2008 and started working and doing very, very, very small jobs on very small projects. And I met Michelle Azenzer on the set of a show called The Sweet Life. No, I'm sorry, called yeah, The Sweet Life on Deck, which was a spinoff of the Zach and Cody show. And Michelle and I got along really well right from the beginning. And when she came on as first AD, first assistant director of Mike and Molly, she wanted some people that she knew around her. And so she called me and asked if I wanted to come on and be a part of that. The main male actor on that show, Billy Gardell, who was another big influence on me, he had a stand-in, but he also wanted to work with his stand-in on dialogue and comedy as a friend of his from the comedy world. So I did double duty with him as his stand-in. And gosh, I guess I was on that show for 5 years, which is pretty unheard of in our business. And it was an amazing experience.
And how do you compare the job of being a stand-in to an actor? How do the responsibilities change?
Well, for me, it was a really good primer into acting on film. So while I was doing Mike and Molly, which was kind of my 9 to 5er, I was auditioning for everything under the sun. I auditioned for Marvel projects and all kinds of stuff. And in those early days as an actor, I hadn't quite found who I was. I hadn't
Mhm.
found my rhythm yet, which every young actor needs to figure out, figure out who you are. And when you are standing in for people, even on a sort of broad sitcom like Mike and Molly was, you really got to learn to concentrate. And you have to know, did Billy pick up his coffee cup before he says, I'm ready to go? Or does he do it after? Or does he do it? I think I'm ready to go and then sip his coffee. You got to know those details. Later on, when it's your job to be number one on the call sheet, you think about that and you're going, is it funnier if I pick up that cup of coffee before I talk? Or is it funnier after? Or is it funnier to not pick it up at all? You start thinking in details as opposed to just, well, I sit down, I say the lines, and I'm kind of funny. And then in the end, I walk away. So that was something that Mike and Molly really taught me was to be very detail oriented. And that is still serving me today as a professional actor in my own right.
Yeah, I agree with that. That crew was very special in the way that it was very easy to collaborate as an artist in that team, and to be able to. For me, I was able to find my footing and really find my identity as an artist. And a lot of these people are still in my life today as mentors, as just collaborators. I mean, to be able to speak to you today to support Destino, what I'm doing, And yeah, it's really rewarding to be able to meet people like that. Uh,
100%. And that show was very giving with advice. Um, I working with Billy, who was, a really good example of how to behave and how to make friends on set and how to make everybody really, get behind you for your performance. That was really integral for me. Melissa McCarthy, oh my gosh. I've watching her was it's just acting school. You sit and you watch and you pick up as much as you can from everything. She can make anything funny. You give her a pencil and she's going to find 50 ways to make that pencil make you laugh. And every time I would ask her or Billy or anybody on that show a question about like, what do you think about this? What was coming was advice and ideas and creativity every single time. Whether was it directors like Phil Lewis who came on, and oh my gosh, Phil Lewis was so huge with me on that, giving me advice about my auditions and all kinds of stuff. So something about that set was just very giving, and everybody wanted to give back. So it was truly, if you got a chance to work on that show, you know what we're talking about. You truly do.
and I knew you as a friend of mine with many talents. And how do you stay inspired between projects?
Um, it's a good question. The most important thing I think is this is going to sound very, very hippie, but it's true. Um, I love to consume other people's stuff. Hugo, so much of your work, I love seeing the progression of your comic book series you've been working on for many years now. And, I know I have a lot of filmmakers that I admire here. I'm working with two young filmmakers, Michael Steinbach and Michael Kolb right now, and I love watching their stuff. But to really understand film, it's funny how what you really need to do occasionally is shut off your phone and shut off, the TV and experience life and go do things that you haven't done before. And whether that's traveling, whether that's learning to ride a horse, whether that's, I don't know, picking up a basketball, meeting new people, uh, learning how to mix cocktails, anything that you can do that is a weird new skill. And more importantly, something that will get you in connection with people that aren't just your bros keeps me inspired. It it makes me feel like there's a huge world out there because there is. And LA is, really one of the biggest little cities in the world. It can feel so small after a while because you end up meeting the same 100 people over and over again in our business. So few of us are working professionally that it feels like a very small community. When you decide, yeah, I'm just fascinated by martial arts. I want to go learn martial arts. And so you go and you go into a community and you start working with people. It expands you and you start meeting different personalities. The next thing you know, when you're on set, you've got this whole new set of skills and this whole new set of personalities to draw from. So yeah, I would say experiencing life, man, that's what keeps me inspired, doing new weird stuff.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and especially for people like us who either it's not all about just writing all the time. I mean, that's a great exercise, but it's also like you said, meeting a new group of people, gaining a new skill, just getting a new experience so that you have more material to write about, to talk about, to create.
Yeah, 100%. I remember I want to quote another Mike and Molly alum. Is this just the Mike and Molly advertising? Like I get some residuals from it, so I'm trying to tell, hey, watch Mike and Molly. It's fantastic television.
Hey,
Um,
I'm an advocate for Mike and Molly whenever it comes up.
right?
And just to speak for everybody else, every time I enter a new show, everybody that was on Mike and Molly that I recognize, they automatically want to talk about those good old days. But
Yeah,
yeah, go,
I've
you
I've
go.
run into I've run into Billy a bunch of times since working with him on that, and every time we're both like, yeah, Mike and Molly, yeah, I remember this, and we did that. I want to quote somebody else who was just really generous with their time. Was Reno Wilson, who played Billy Gardell's best friend on the Force in that show. He gave me a quote that, man, this one, the kids say it lives rent free in my head. Get ready for this. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That one was huge. At the time when I was on Mike and Molly, I was really out of shape. I wasn't doing very good health wise. I'd kind of slipped back into some bad habits, and stress was getting to me, and there was a lot going on outside of my work life. And so I was really trying to get in shape. And Reno Wilson is a big advocate of health and being not skinny, being strong, being strong. Some of our set days, man, I know you know this. Some days on set are 16, 17, 20-hour days. That can happen. Ideally, you get into a show that runs like clockwork and every day is 9, 10 hours. But man, sometimes you're there forever. If you're not strong, you're not going to make it. And I was also getting these auditions for big name stuff, and I just wasn't in shape for it. And Reno always said, man, you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That was huge. That was
Yeah,
huge.
and that was one person that I always turned to myself, just because Reno was just like a ray of sunshine all the time and just positivity. And like you said, yeah, it was something that we all collaborated or connected with, as far as like being healthy and being fit. And like you said, no matter what it is that you're trying to approach, to always be persistent and to always be ready, like you said.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Nobody really wants to hire the person who's like, well, if you just give Heath 6 months, he's going to be awesome, right?
right.
I mean, what they want is they want to look at me and go, that's a private detective right there. You know, that's an astronaut. That's a wizard, whatever it is you're auditioning for. I believe that guy's a lawyer today, you know, and, there's all sorts of stories about, oh man, I was able to take all this time to lose weight or to, you know, learn how to sword fight or whatever else. That's great. But if you have downtime, it's good to get ready so you don't have to get ready later.
And Heath, what made you want to work in entertainment?
What made me want to work in entertainment? I think two things. It's both very people friendly and very selfish. I love collaboration. You learn really early on in our business that you're probably good at what you do. Even if you think like, oh, well, I'm not as good as my heroes. Well, of course you're not. You haven't had their experiences yet. But if you're coming to this industry, you probably have something to offer, whether it's drama, comedy, stand up, whatever you're doing, you're probably pretty good at it. What makes you seem brilliant is when a perfect, flawless spotlight hits you and beautifully illuminates your features. And then there's a soft violin playing under the first few words that you say. And then after that is beautifully shot and recorded, some genius in an editing room is piecing it together so that your performance goes from, hey, that was pretty good, to that's a work of art. And there's nothing that I can do to make those lights, to make that sound, to make that film, to make that editing happen without a small village of people. And I love that. I think it's a cool metaphor for society that we all build upon something good and small and make it into something really worthwhile and lucrative or beautiful and moving and inspiring to people. I love that. And that's almost more than almost any industry I can think of, maybe more than any industry I can think of. The entertainment industry makes that happen. You got to have a town around you to make a short film, you know? And I think that's wonderful. The other thing that I love about this industry, and it's very selfish, is it's a great chance to be heard. Man, I won't get too personal with you, but because I love this industry and I insist on working in it, I've been able to get through grief, loneliness, um, tragedy, a lot of things because I have a platform. Reason I have a platform is because I built it. I've got people around me who love telling stories too. And I made a short film while we were doing Mike and Molly actually about something that everybody in their 30s and 40s can maybe relate to, which is a parent suddenly seeming mortal. And you realize, wow, mom and dad aren't going to be around forever. My dad had a health scare, and it really hit me hard. I was able to tell this story of what that's like to be an adult and suddenly see that you may be the elder pretty soon and be heard, be heard in a way that helped heal me through that process. What you find out is in so doing and in telling that story and having it be told to others, you're not alone. And everybody else comes to you and says, you know what? I loved your film, or hey, I saw your film at least. And it inspired me to call my mom, inspired me to make peace with my grandfather or whatever. And every person who said that to me, it nailed me. Whether they loved the film or were like, it was fine. A lot of people got moved to talk to their elderly family members that they hadn't spoken to. And it's kind of a selfish thing, that I get to do that and say, hey, this is the star for the next, few minutes of your life. But you connect with somebody in so doing, and you find out you're not alone. So once again, this industry does that better than anyone I know.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I agree with you about being able to connect your story with other people and just to show the viewers that it's so universal and you're not alone. You're not facing this by yourself. It's not just you. So yeah, I'm proud of the work that you do. Uh,
Thanks, man.
early on, when you were getting started, did you have any mentors or who did you learn off of the most?
You know what I did? I'm going to be honest. I made a list. Um, I will pat myself on the back for doing one thing really well, and that was in the beginning going, I don't know what I'm doing. If you put me in a theater in anywhere in the country when I was like, in my mid 20s, just getting started as a film actor, I was totally comfortable. I knew where everything was. I knew how to do all of it. I didn't know anything about film. I had no idea what I was doing. And so when I found people who were in any way receptive to giving me advice, man, I grabbed onto them. So I want to credit uh, David Kaiser, Dana Zock, and Reggie Schwander as early acting influences. Those three people were very big at saying, you've got a lot of passion. We're going to find out if you have talent and if you want to pursue this. Later on, Mark Adams was a huge one for me. And those are people that in the local Houston, Texas scene are, kind of celebrities. So, if you know what those folks are, good on you. Um, People we've already mentioned, Billy Gardell and Melissa McCarthy. Melissa gave me some great advice about how to work through the modern trials of being an actor and what that's like. She pointed out that the generation before us was the last generation that just gets to be actors. The rest of us have to be writers, producers, and we have to be filmmakers in order to be actors. And you kind of just can't go, I'm going to act and that's it. You got to learn it all. And then later on, more recently, I worked, this is as name droppy as I get, man. I worked with Tom Hanks as his dialogue coach on Henry IV. And I worked with him for a whole summer. We had lunch every day and just went through this dialogue. And once he got the hang of it, he asked me to stick around and keep assisting him on the show, and it was truly a joy. In between shows, and man, we were on stage for 8, 10 hours a day rehearsing that thing. In between shows, he would give me advice about starting out, not really starting out, about how he started out, and he saw a lot of parallels between how the two of us, got things going. And he made me proud of everything I'd done, even the stuff that I thought was, cringy and things I didn't want to see the light of day. But he made me proud of all of that and proud of where I'm going. And he gave me a lot of great advice. He actually just reached out earlier this year about the play that he's doing in New York, which if you get a chance to see it, go see it. And yeah, so I've been really, really lucky. I mentioned Gary Marshall, who gave me some great advice. And yeah, there's been a lot of great people in my life that said, I'm going to pay attention. Um, you know, Shout out to LL Cool J for letting me know that you got to be strong to work on any show. That's a fact.
Yeah, all those experiences are so priceless and things that
Oh, and
we
Hugo Maldonado. Oh my God. Hugo Maldonado, man. If there's a better example of a dude who was like, I'm not where I want to be, I'm gonna get to where I want to be, it's Hugo Maldonado. And watching
Thank
you
you.
do what you did told me that I can do it. It can be done. You just got to have that dog in you. You got to have that fight. And dude, folks, Hugo Maldonado, no joke.
Oh, I appreciate that. I know, you guys were a big part of my journey early on because I was able to use you guys as an outlet of telling you my experiences. How can I improve? Even to, hey, can you read my resume before I submit for this job? And with you just connecting on a different level to be able to show you, hey, I have an idea for this comic book and I don't know where to start. And I'm just painting right now to evolving through the process with you to creating pitch decks and to be able to have that person that I could call whenever I feel like I'm not sure about what I'm doing. So let me check with Heath, see what he thinks. So yeah, I appreciate you as well.
Absolutely, man. If you're not willing to do that for people, this probably is just not the industry for you. That's how I feel. There's plenty of people who come out here and they want to make it all about themselves, and I think they've got about a year to maybe get super lucky. But that almost never happens. Everybody who has staying power, builds a community around them, and they develop a reputation for being approachable, being
Yeah.
helpful. And, I'm sure that if I sat down and wrote down all the conversations that you and I had, I learned a lot from you. There was a lot that you were doing that was totally alien to me because you came from a world I wasn't familiar with. And, you know, I picked up a lot of bravery because Hugo, you had no fear being like, hey, person I've never met or who I've met twice, here's this thing I want to do. And being willing to take the consequences of being embarrassed or being told no, you were able to just move up those ranks and move up those ranks. And then one day we came in and you were like, this is my new job. And phew, talk about inspiring, man. That's just huge.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? It was one of those quotes that we always hear about. You're gonna hear a thousand no's before you hear yes. So to me, in my mind, I was like, all right, well, here's another no. So I got 999 to go. And it was just, keep plugging away. And it was also seeking out those people that I really gravitated and connected to because those are the people that inspired me to keep going. And I mean, Melissa was the biggest advocate for me, just to always show interest in what I'm doing and to keep me motivated by giving me work in her projects, just gave me the confidence, like as an artist, to just be able to see myself as one and to be able to go into different projects, knowing that I bring something to the table.
So I want to tell a quick anecdote about Melissa McCarthy. I've always wanted to tell this story, and it just goes to show how much she believes in the people around her. So it's the wrap party for Mike and Molly. Like the whole series is over. It's completed. They've wrapped up all the storylines. This is it. This is the last time that we're all probably going to be in a room together. And so we're at this really nice place. And I have to go run outside real quick. I come back. Melissa's walking up beside me, and I'm like, "Oh wow, Melissa, great, glad to see you." We hug, and she tells me, "Heath, this is the last opportunity you're going to get with some of these people. So if somebody says to you, 'Hey, I got a script. Hey, I'm doing this,' don't be shy about being like, 'Well, here's my number, here's my email address, whatever.'" So we get in this elevator. In this elevator, it's now me, Melissa McCarthy, Reno Wilson, and a guy named Chuck Lorre. Now, you don't know who Chuck Lorre is. What am I saying? You know who Chuck Lorre is, Mr. Television, right? So he's in there, and it's quiet. People are like, they're checking out their hair. They're thinking about, oh yeah, wow, what kind of cocktails they got. And I'm just sitting there. I'm waiting for my opportunity. I gotta say something funny. I'm gonna make them. And Melissa's looking at me like, you know, I'm saying she's her saying, great opportunity, you know. So I'm quiet. Chuck Lorre looks over at Reno Wilson and goes, "Hey, I love that jacket." Reno had a really beautiful suit on. And Reno said, "Oh, yeah, I got this in," and he couldn't remember where he got it from. He said, "I was on vacation. I got it from I don't know, some country." And everybody kind of, nodded. And I went, "Yeah, most places come from a country." Nothing. Crickets, man. Crickets. Nobody said a word. Everyone just kind of looked at their shoes, except for Melissa, who looked around Reno's shoulder and went, uh, like, really, dude? And everybody gets off the elevator. I'm just standing there. Melissa's standing there. I'm just shocked at the stupid thing I just said. And Melissa goes, most things come from a country. And I was like, I panicked. I don't know. I don't know, man. And Melissa starts laughing and she's like, welcome to comedy, dude. Welcome to comedy. And she teased me about it a little bit more while we were there, but it was just an example of like how much she believed in me, and not everything you do is going to be gold, man. Like, spoiler alert, Chuck Lorre did not turn to me and say, that was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I want you to read for this thing called The Big Bang Theory. That didn't happen. But it was such a cool Hollywood moment. I'm glad I had that experience, and I'm really glad I got to share that with you.
Yeah, you know what? Similar to you, I was speaking to somebody about like Melissa, and they pointed out the fact that she became this kind of teacher mentor to a lot of us in a way because she had already started working on her dream job, and she was, I feel like she was always championing us to keep digging and keep working towards our dream job because she was able to do, and for her I'm sure it was not easy to do. And I think that with her around, it just really gave us that like extra inspiration.
Hmm. Yeah, she once told me a story about how early on in her career she had auditioned for a show. In some cases, you'll end up auditioning for a show like six, seven, 10 times, and it's because you do well in the first audition, you get a call back, and then they say, well, we like Heath. We've already cast Hugo. Let's see how Heath acts with Hugo. And so they put Heath and Hugo in a room, and we do great. And then they put me in a room with Jessica Davis, who is the leading lady, and I don't do so well with Jessica Davis, but I do okay. So then they put me with somebody else, and they, over and over again, you end up auditioning a million times. This happened with Melissa, and at the end of it, the casting director came over to her and said, this character is a neighbor, and you just don't seem like a neighbor. And if you think about how crazy that sounds to an actor, like everybody's a neighbor. If you have a house or an apartment, you are somebody. How do you not look like a neighbor? And it's a funny story, but it's just so painfully true. These are the things that we end up going through in this industry. And if you don't let that destroy you, and I mean, there are some people who would go, that's it. I'm throwing my script up in the air. I'm done. I'm going to go back to work in insurance or something. If you don't let that destroy you, you can become Melissa McCarthy. You know, you can become Hugo Maldonado. Don't let the little setbacks and the things that people who just don't understand you yet tell you that you have to give up because you don't look like how they want you to look.
Heath, what would you say is an experience that changed your life?
I've been very fortunate to get to work with a lot of my heroes. Um, Robert Downey Jr. was the actor that I really wanted to emulate the most when I was a kid, and um, God, I still do. He's an incredible performer. But I remember I was in a bar one time, and there was this really really pretty girl, and she was working behind the bar, and I wanted to get her phone number, and this guy standing. This is in L.A. And this guy was standing next to me and he goes, you want her number? And I was like, yeah. And he said, well, you don't have her number right now. So if you ask her for her phone number and she says, no, I'm not giving you my phone number, what have you lost? No one's going to take $10,000 out of your bank account for it. No one's even going to know what happened. You may as well get to where you want to be. And you're never going to do that if you don't ask. So I asked for a number. I got it. Yay. But what I got out of that was a I don't need other people to validate me. I don't need anybody to go, yes, I'm going to knight you. You are now a professional actor in Los Angeles, California. Or wow, I love all your stuff and you're brilliant and you're wonderful. I admire Robert Downey Jr. I love working with Tom Hanks, but what I need to do is make myself happy as an artist. I need to do that on my own. And the other thing is, if I ask somebody for something, if I need help, if I have an idea, it's something I want to pitch. If I go to Hugo Maldonado and I go, "Hey man, I got this awesome script idea. Do you want to work on it?" And Hugo says, "You know what, Heath, I'm too busy. I haven't lost anything. What have I done? I've opened a door between me and Hugo." And the next thing that comes along, Hugo might go, "You know who'd be perfect for that is Heath." Also, Hugo might go, "Heath, I love the script idea, and I've got 50 people I want you to meet who want to make this thing happen." So, oddly enough, that little moment in a bar in Hollywood, California, I don't know if it changed my life, but it definitely changed my outlook. And it made me braver and it made me more okay with just doing things on my own for myself.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's those moments that you don't expect to, get this kind of perspective out of it. But again, it's like one of those things where if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't meet the next person, it's connecting dots. And it might not work out, but at least, like you said, you're in the radar and you're
Mhm.
playing in the field. And a lot of the times, we get scared of putting ourselves out there if our work is not good enough, if we feel like, Tom Hanks and Melissa McCarthy are big stars, they don't want to hear from us. That type of mentality holds you back from being able to connect with others as people, as artists, beyond what we think and how we overthink in our head.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the answer is often in our business no, but the answer is very rarely no and never. Usually it's no, not right now. No, maybe not the way you're wording it. You know, no, based on the way you pitched it to me. No, but maybe somebody else, you know? So no's don't hurt you. They really don't. We're trained to believe that they hurt you. They're just saying not right now.
Oh, and also, I also started to appreciate no's, especially with my Western, because when I present it to somebody and they don't gravitate the way that I expect them to, and they say no, I'm grateful for that because I don't want to work with somebody that doesn't see the vision that I see or the potential or the way that I want to expand this project.
There
So
you go.
when I do get the yeses that I'm looking for, I know to protect that and to really put in the effort to make this partnership work. So yeah, I don't mind getting no's now.
Sure. And if you'd gotten a yes from someone who didn't understand it, you would be in a situation where you're like, no, it's a Western. You know, no, I don't want to put spaceships into it. I want it to stay a Western. I want this character to stay true to who he is. And, yeah, I'm going to add a love story here, but it's a Western. It's got to stay that. That's what this is. And if you just someone who's like, yeah, sure, I'm bored. Let's do this, Hugo. And they don't understand it, you know, that's a worse place to be, I think. You'd rather find that, unlock that door and find that partnership that's going to make your project what you want it to be.
Yeah, what advice would you give your younger self?
Hmm. I would say, don't worry so much. Um, Billy Gardell gave me some advice. I think I mentioned earlier, but I'll do it again. Billy told me what other people think of you is none of your business. And I, at the end of the day, as we were saying, what really matters in this business is yes or no, right? Did I get the job? Did I not get the job? I used to really worry if people, liked me and thought I was somebody they wanted to hang out with all the time or whatever. And it comes from a self-loathing actor kind of place. And the end result is nobody really wants to work with that guy, you know? So if I go to it from a place where I'm saying, I want to do this job, I want this work, this is what I have to offer, worrying about what they think of me is never going to get me there. I should be concerned about what they think of my work, what they think of my work ethic, my ideas I'm bringing. But it really is okay if not everybody, agrees with you 100% and thinks you're wonderful. You don't need that. What you need is somebody who goes, I would do some amazing work on this project with you. So let's work together.
And lastly, what tips would you give young people so that they can go network and meet the right people so they can be in the right communities to get opportunity?
I would say the first thing you do is you listen. If you're out here in LA for longer than a week, you're going to meet somebody who's in the business. And talk to your friends, start being social. Just have fun. Go to places where you know you'll feel strong, where you will feel good. If that's at a bar, great. If that's at a coffee house, if it's at a bookstore, if it's at the rodeo, go to the places where you feel strong because you're going to find people there who share your voice. And because this is LA, you're going to find people who don't just share your voice, but they also are actors and writers and directors and photographers. And, in my case, I started hanging out with, folks who were also in the second team world and in the burgeoning actor world. And pretty soon I found a DP who was like, I just need to shoot. I just need to shoot. What scripts do you have? And so for me, being social, finding friends, finding people that I liked and liked spending time with was really valuable in the beginning. And from that, I was able to build a production company and start looking at people not just as buddies and people are fun to hang out with, but as folks who had the same hunger that I did. And maybe we're not going to win 10 Oscars by the end of the year, but we're going to make 4 short films that showcase my acting and your art and her dance skills and his photography and whatever and this lady's amazing fight choreography that she does. And by the end of it, you've got something whole. You've got a product that shows you off. And yeah, it's kind of like starting a band. If you want to play guitar, go find a drummer. If you want to sing, go find a bass player. Find somebody that shares your vibe and your voice. And the next thing you know, you'll have work. You'll be doing the work.
Well, thank you, Heath. I'm really proud of you and the work that you've done. And I appreciate that you took a second to talk to me and that we were able to revisit some good times. And yeah, I really appreciate you and your friendship.
Ditto, man. Oh, absolutely. Listen, I just auditioned for a couple of soap operas, which is a brand new kind of world for me. And you hit me up with this right as I was kind of gearing up for that, and it sort of made me rethink my process and how I was doing things. And when you look at where you came from, sometimes you forget those first key steps, and you forget some of the very simple core ideas. And it kind of made me look at that audition in a different way. So thank you for spurring that and making me think about like, what would 20-year-old Heath do with this project? And what can I glean from those early days hanging out with Hugo in craft services and seeing him across the set thinking I would redesign things differently. Like what would those early steps have in common with what I'm doing now? So thank you for that. This has been a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
absolutely. I'm happy and I'm glad that this conversation shines a light on all of that. And yeah, good luck.
Yeah, man. You too. Folks, get out there, have fun, make a movie. And cast me in it, God forbid.
Thanks, Heath.
Cheers, folks.